media is a huge obstacle to meaningful democracy. Joining us to discuss this, please welcome Mr. Nish Kumar. How are you doing, Nish? Have you been following this election?
I'm having the best time of my life, Frankie. I love elections. I hope we have one every year, which I think we will. This is just what we do at this time of year now. Indie Ref, election, Brexit, election, Indie Ref and the Temple of Doom. Like, it's just going to keep on, it's just going to keep on rolling.
I like your positivity, Nish.
Yeah, I'm here to be a ray of sunshine. Democracy!
Now, this campaign showed us that elections are an exchange of rhetorical artillery, and the lack of engagement from voters is something the media is complicit in. Theresa May can be interviewed by Paxman the week of the Manchester bomb and not be asked how the bomber got to Libya and back on her watch while she was Home Secretary. Instead, we got questions about the Falklands War, while we are selling Saudi Arabia bombs to drop on Yemen. The media is complicit in the whole thing, from cropping shots to create the scenes the parties want, to printing coverage that's sometimes little more than a party press release. And this is, you know, what we've been talking about, the whole kind of catchphrase nature of the election. Look, saying strong and stable all the time isn't a strong and stable thing to do. If someone just had the words strong and stable as their Tinder bio, that's someone who's teetering on the verge of a nervous breakdown. That's someone who's facing a work disciplinary for hiding a rifle in a stationery cupboard. That's somebody who's dropped their carpets off to cash converter because they need money to buy heroin for their dog. As they're cooking up a shot for their baffled labradoodle, they see their own face reflected in the spoon and it's mouthing the words strong and stable. With the support of the entire media, how could Theresa May have lost this election? Theresa May could have taken a shit on the cenotaph through a wreath of poppies and then dragged her arse like a dog with worms down the length of Pall Mall, and the worst that could have happened is that she'd have to form a coalition. Yes, do you find this? Do you find the campaign coverage, this kind of, I find it very false and kind of stultifying?
Yeah, it feels like more than ever the media has not actually engaged. It's been very passive. It's very sort of observing the process rather than actually interrogating. And then we had this kind of spectacle of these debates that weren't really debates because they weren't in the same room. And it was quite a hollow experience. And it's a bit like watching a porn movie where instead of two people having sex, they just stand in separate rooms and masturbate consecutively. And like, at the end you're a bit like, I've still got an erection, but nothing's really been solved here.
There's that thing, isn't there, where you sort of feel it's like they need to convey more complexity in what they're saying. So you have these messages like coalition of chaos or strong and stable, and then you sort of need to go, well, it's not as simple as that, and give people a more informed view. But the minute you do that, you're in a medium where it's impossible to go, well, it's actually more sophisticated than that, because you've got to cut straight to the next.
I just don't think people do actually want that much information. I think most people just want to grab a couple of things and talk about them angrily after they've had a large white wine. Just judging from my family. Everyone in my family is Tory, and their reasons are really interesting. Like my sister, I said to her about all the cuts and things that are happening, things that mean a lot to me in terms of the rape crisis centres don't have funding anymore, women's refuges don't have funding anymore. She went, well, actually, did you know 75% of the women in those refuges are pretending that their boyfriend's hitting them so they've got a second place to live? Yeah? That is what happens if you don't fund education. She's a teacher.
Who's having a second home in a rape shelter?
Maybe it's near a beach.
So, during the campaign, the media accidentally gave us an insight into its true priorities. Take a look at Nicola Sturgeon being interviewed by Sky News.
Whilst you can blame the Conservatives for imposing that austerity, why not take a reaction yourself by raising that money through taxation of the most rich?
Well, as you've just indicated,
First
we
Minister,
are considering...
I'm extremely sorry to interrupt you. We do have to interrupt, though. Theresa May has just started speaking. Perhaps you could hang on for us and we can get your reaction.
I take absolutely nothing for granted.
I'm going to be continuing to campaign across the whole of the country.
See, that's the whole media thing for me now. It's all about symbolism, right? So he's gone from an actual conversation to a symbolic event where Theresa May has stood outside a bus. There's nobody even there, so there's just photographers. They're in a lay-by somewhere. She's shouting nothing into a hedge, and they've cut away to do that. We can watch what happens at the end of the shot.
They could easily let in a coalition of chaos led by Jeremy Corbyn. She said that was a real possibility, so they mustn't take anything for granted. She urged people to vote for her and vote for her and her team, and a vote for her and her team is a vote to lock in economic security.
I wish they'd carried on filming because, you know, just behind the bus there was a wheat field. Happy as Larry.
The peak of coziness between politicians and the media during the campaign was this embarrassing appearance by Theresa and Philip May on the One Show. Let's have a look.
When you've experienced so much of each other's lives, because you met when you were so young, and all of this has happened to you, you must feel like you're almost one, as opposed to individuals.
Mm. Yes, I suppose it's...
Well, but I mean, I think the point is we're still individuals, but we know each other really well.
It's sort of like they don't understand normal conversation. So when he goes, it's sort of like you're one person. They go, how does the human know?
I like the way they chorus, we are individuals.
But if he's an electoral asset, I mean, he looks like, you know, like when you see like a baby bird that's fallen out of a nest. You need to stamp on it before a cat gets it.
I didn't hate them in this interview, but I did hate the stuff about the boy jobs and girl jobs.
Oh, yeah.
Like the idea that a woman can't take the bins out. And as a woman who lives alone in a house full of rubbish, will someone come and take my bins out?
The thing is that the One Show, you know, that's kind of the format of it, but I thought it was more of a problem that, you know, certain newspapers and places where you expect some actual analysis to happen had such an unquestioning view of Theresa May. I mean, the Daily Mail described her as, like, finally a Prime Minister who'll be honest, but she lied about the fact that there was going to be an election, and she campaigned for Remain, and now she's pushing for a Brexit so aggressive, Pret a Manger is going to have to change its name to Lunch In It. Like... Of all the things you would praise her for, honesty is baffling.
I mean, that thing where most of that interview is them talking about going on a walking holiday in Snowdonia. I think possibly they go there because she mates with a tethered dragon. That's at the top of Snowdonia.
Somebody needs to say it, Frankie.
And maybe when you see it uncomfortable in interviews, someone is attacking the dragon. Her soul is in the dragon, and she's trying to, you know, I run through fields of wheat, but really she's thinking, save the dragon.
I would love it if you had been in the audience for one of the leaders' debates and been like, look, this is all very well. What's happening with the dragon?
What if some idiot in North Korea or Iran attacks our dragon?
What would you do then, Mr. Corbyn? Would you protect our dragon?
I would, yes, you would.
Anyway, it's important candidates catch voters' attention. Here's one Conservative candidate's creative method of getting their message across with a shifting gear towards the end.
Hello, my name's Greg Knight. I'm the Conservative candidate for East Yorkshire. There's a general election on the 8th of June, and I hope if you live in East Yorkshire that you'll vote for me. When you vote in an election, you're doing two things. You're choosing who is your local representative, but you're also choosing a Prime Minister. I hope you'll vote for me and support Theresa May. We want a strong and stable government, not a coalition of chaos led by Jeremy Corbyn.
You'll get accountability with conservative delivery. Make sure this time you get it right. Vote for Red now.
What are the words in the song? Was the first line of that song, we're cutting disability?
It's so hard not to watch that and suddenly be able to understand those mothers in the 1950s who looked at Elvis and saw him as such a threat to their daughters. I mean, that guy, he's just fucking sex. I think it's dangerous. I think what he's doing there is it's provocative and it's deliberately provocative. Okay, even at the beginning, it starts the door. He could start and he'd be there, but it doesn't. When it starts, the door's empty. Oh, there's an empty. Who's going to come into the office? Well, I don't know who it's going to be. Oh, it's Greg Knight. It's Greg Knight. Oh, that's a surprise.
Have a VHS made of that and sent to every young person in the constituency. There's a slight loophole for the media where they're allowed to be properly difficult with minor parties and far-right wingnuts. Have a look at what happened when UKIP's Paul Nuttall announced he was standing in a town he had no prior links to.
You should be thrilled at what we're going to do next, which is a little game, just to test how well you know the seat that you're going to stand in. Boston or Loston. All you've got to do is look at the picture on the screen and say whether or not this is a picture of Boston or somewhere else in the country. Here's the first one. What do you reckon? Boston or not?
Boston, I'd say. Am I
Sorry.
correct?
That's Aylesbury Town Centre.
Is that Aylesbury? Okay.
I can see the market. You might be distracted by that, but...
Oh, come on.
Okay, let's have a look at the next one. What about this one? How about this? Are you looking at Boston or another place in the country?
I would say Boston.
I'm sorry, that's not Boston.
Okay.
I'm sorry, that's not Boston. That is...
But hang on, Sophie. I mean,
How about this one?
that's Boston.
That is Boston. Correct.
At least there's like some kind of critical appraisal of the leader of the UK Independence Party, which sort of breaks with the tradition of the last decade. And if that had been Farage, it would have been, is this a picture of you being a complete legend or a partial legend? Like, they've had such a boner for him for years, and I'm delighted that now that party is getting... Anyway, I have certain opinions about UKIP. And they have certain opinions about me.
Well, I suppose what the ideal would be is if you did something relevant, so you had Farage on there and you did like deport or not. And you said, well, it might just be a tan, but who cares? Deport.
I will host that game show.
There's also a sort of, like, it's an unnecessary item. If it was an item about the homogenisation of English town centres or whatever, that would be a completely valid approach, but as it is, it's just a waste of everyone's fucking time.
Okay, so, our media may be an obstacle to democracy, but I promise you, it is not an insurmountable one. I can promise you that it will change, and that life will become fairer, and your children will have a brighter future. And I can promise you this, because promises are meaningless. Anyone can promise anything, because the days of being held to account for promises are over. Nothing will get better. This, now, is as good as it's ever going to be. This, I mean, look at it. This, what a fucking mess. Your children's futures are fucked. But I do promise you this. I do not care about your or your children's future. That is a promise you can believe. Well, that's the end of the show. Thanks to my guests, Sarah Pascoe, Miles Jupp, Mitch Kumar. But before I go, I want to leave you with some words. Tonight they're going to be in the style of UKIP leader Paul Nuttall, in what I hope will be an uncannily accurate impression. Hi, I'm Paul Nuttall from UKIP. To many of you, I probably look like at some point in life I've had to pull a dangerous dog off my mum. You've made an instant value judgment about me because my neck is the same width as my head. And I look like I might give you unsolicited advice when you were playing a fruit machine. Most of the failed politicians from this election will end up with some kind of directorship. Not me. In 6 weeks' time, I'll be breeding staffies and driving a coach. Of course, people say that I actually look like a male model, fronting a campaign urging women not to leave their drinks unattended. And yet, my father was actually a South American magic realist novelist. It was a tricky upbringing in many ways. I'd ask him if I could go to a friend's birthday party, and he'd launch into a long digression about a pirate who fell in love with a seal. Dad never stopped talking, except when it was time for my bedtime story, which he always read silently to himself. Of course, I rebelled. I created my own fantasy life to rival my father's. Perhaps I just wanted to stand for something simple, to stand up for the sort of people who put a big St. George's flag in their garden during a football championship and then never take it down. Until it gets so dirty from petrol fumes that it looks like they support ISIS. When the general election was called, I phoned my father in excitement, but he seemed subdued. "Paul, I have something to tell you," he announced in his foreign accent. "You are not a real man. You're a character in a story I am writing. I had conceived of you as an ironic commentary on British masculinity." He then announced that he had created my flagship policy of having women examined for female genital mutilation as a piece of satire, as there is nothing more thoroughly British than going on holiday and coming back with a damaged vagina. I started to worry that I was indeed simply some kind of racist Pinocchio. So am I real or not? Who knows? I have the strangest dreams sometimes. Sometimes I dream I'm a teenager who's suffocating in a shipping container. I feel complete empathy, a oneness with the universe. And I fight that feeling with everything I've got. I wake up, and with a full English breakfast and some strong aftershave, I feel as real as I'll ever need. Good night, everybody.
Chill. I said chill.